Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, and my books are on audio as well. Now, I have a return guest. I have Mr. Theo Chino back on. He was last on season 5, episode 252, 192, and he was on 128, 143, 164, 187, 192, 204, 206, and 217. So I'm so glad to have you back on. We're going to talk a lot. We're going to talk a lot about making the best of things. And we're going to talk about this new tax for the middle class and lower to upper class that we're going to talk about, and why people don't watch the whole podcast and then take a clip and just assume things. Welcome, Theo.
Thank you for having me on again. Yeah, Americans, if you speak American,
What's
I want
that?
to let you know right now, you talk American, you know what? You you're so interested in your favorite football player and how his pinky toe's doing. You know all the stats. You even watch the Bears. Why? Why do you do that to yourselves? And you know what? You didn't know this, but you're paying a tax. It's a whole new tax. Congratulations, you've made it to the middle class.
Mm,
Maybe even you're scratching your way into the upper class. And
hmm.
guess what? It's time to pay a tax for that success. You have to feed a whole nother group of people. No, it's not your children,
Mm-mm.
it's other people's children and them and their habits. You need to
Oh,
pay for their Porsche Cayennes, their kids' private schools. You need to pay for their expensive vacations and their vacation homes. It's your
of
duty
course.
now as an American.
Mm-hmm.
You need to participate in this family court system. You know, the government has had 5 decades of dipping into our family's business because, we just can't do it ourselves. Remember the little rascals? Those kids were running around with no parents.
Right?
Remember the Stooges just wandering around in the streets?
I had a crush on Mo.
It's great. So
Ah,
Peter Falk as Columbo and Mo.
yes. Dan Aykroyd. Let's add him.
Dan Aykroyd, quite striking, nice figure, very
Yes,
lovable. Yes, yes.
that's my
I hear he's
kind
a
of
nice guy
guy.
in real life too. He's from around here.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, we needed this last 5 decades of constant creep into our families' lives by the government, by the family courts that have evolved quite a bit.
Mhm.
They haven't gotten smaller, they've gotten bigger. I'm sure there's a court case out there about how many times a parent's allowed to tell their kids to brush their teeth. It's getting there. It may come down to eventually a parent just needs a body cam on them 24/7, 366 on leap year, just in case. And you probably need to pay somebody to watch all that footage just to make sure you're being a good parent. Because, but, what if? What if?
What if there's a
What if,
false
Marianne?
accusation?
Oh, no, no, I'm not talking about that, Marianne. Can you name off some of the scary what ifs? The bad things that could happen to children because of bad parents? Go ahead, Marianne, name them off.
Well, the judge always said, don't you badmouth either parent. So the ex would go home and can badmouth me. The kids told me this. So I think he should have been forced to wear a body cam and she could have seen all the badmouthing.
So that's one thing that could happen, right? Extremely dangerous. One parent
Yeah.
is bad mouthing another parent. What else could a bad parent do?
Slap the kid around,
Slap them, beat them,
right? Other
starve them.
SA.
Yep, abuse them in all kinds of horrible ways we don't even want to think about. right? Be doing drugs in front of them, blah, 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 selling them, all this horrible stuff that's happened for thousands of years.
Right.
And you name anything that a bad parent can do, and I would ask you this: which one of those things did a family court professional and or a family court judge not do yet? Because I would argue that possibly didn't they all do these things to children too? And don't they do them over and over and over again to millions of our children in this country? So there's always this what if, like, what if a parent's bad?
Right.
Shouldn't we limit their power? Right. Okay. Let's talk about limiting a parent's power because they could possibly do a lot of damage to their children. One child, two child. Let's say you have 7 kids nowadays, which is a huge family for an American family.
Oh my God.
One parent can do huge amounts of damage to 7 children. All right, let's talk about limiting that parent's power over the children, right?
Hmm.
Sure. Now let's look at the damage that's been done by these people wearing black robes that call themselves judges that sit in the domestic relations division that is known as a court of equity, which means for those of you that don't speak legalese, what does it mean, Maryann, when I say it's a court of equity? What does that mean?
It's a money court. And family court is also the same thing as probate court, or so I've been told. Then someone said, well, it's also a civil court, but not really. It's a fine line there. I don't think it is.
So, I mean, does I'm going to say the C word. It's not allowed in court. Constitution.
No,
Did that come up? Do
no,
constitutional rights
uh,
apply?
no, no.
So here we have these people sitting there with black robes on who went to law school. Well, most of them did. There's even been a few that have slipped through that have paid someone else to pass their bar exams for them, got caught, admitted to doing it, and are still sitting on the bench. Well, you've been doing the job long enough.
Right. And letting
What?
out criminals with
Right.
right, right. Yeah.
Being caught selling kids for cash,
Yes.
being put on cushy house arrest or in a nice facility that is not too rough, that really doesn't mete out the punishment that someone who is selling kids for cash deserves. And then they get pardoned by our last president.
Oh, that was upsetting. Carrie Haight and I, we did a podcast on that. I mean, that was December 14th. I was sick to my stomach. I just couldn't believe I was hearing this on the news. I just after the lives of those kids, those two judges destroyed. Just like,
But what if, Maryann? What if a parent's bad? Well, what if a judge is bad? What if? Just like parental rights can be called into question because of a what if, not a this happened. Now let's talk about what to do with this parent and these children. A what if? What if someday, somewhere, somebody, somehow, maybe, almost, what if we give somebody judicial discretion and judicial immunity? And what if they're part of a network of people that profit off of blowing bills up like you wouldn't believe? So, what was the topic we're going to talk about today? Making the what out of what?
the best of it.
Making the best of it. How can you make the best of it when you live in a country where most Americans think it's normal? It's part of your life now. You're born, you someday maybe get married or have kids. You have to get divorced and go through family court. It's just like it's right up there with getting married.
Yeah.
I love Annie from Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life. At the end, when everybody's coming in and saving George Bailey's butt, and throwing money at them.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm waiting for everybody to do that for me because I've
Same,
helped a lot of people.
same.
Um, Annie shows up and she dumps some money. They're like, Annie. And she's like, well, I was saving up for a divorce if ever I had enough money to get a husband or something like that. You have to save up for the divorce. You have to have one of those. It's almost like you're not a real American unless you have one of those.
Right, right,
And some of us were forced to have a divorce that we didn't even want to have.
right, right.
It's all part of being an American. And then you have to pay these professionals every dime you have. And you have to get money, you have to borrow money you don't have to pay them until finally you run out of money. And then they tell you what?
Start
What do they
swiping charge cards.
Right. But then all of your cards are maxed out. You can't borrow money from anybody else. It's all done. They know they've tapped you out because they looked at your financial affidavits. They know how much you have. What do they tell you when they've squeezed you dry? What do they tell you next?
Just get more money.
Yeah, and when you can't, when you say, "Hey, I just don't have any," what do they say when you say there's
Bye.
no more?
They
Bye
say
bye.
bye.
And maybe they'll give you the best piece of advice that they should have given you in the beginning.
Hmm.
Well, looks like you two are just gonna have to figure it out. Looks like you two are just gonna have to work it out.
But your other co-parent has an attorney, and they keep grinding you into into the dirt.
That could be part of many people's equations where one party says, hey, I'm not going to keep giving these people money. They're incompetent,
Right.
they're ignorant,
Yep.
they're rude, they're mean. They give me life advice when I would pay these people to stay away from my family, most of them. When you look at their personal lives, it's like, yeah, I don't want my family to be anything like your family.
Right.
And the other side still hasn't figured it out yet. So that happens a lot, right? And you're
Hmm.
forced to go into this court of equity on the domestic relations ship and play this little game. It's like the Jerry Springer show,
Yeah.
except for I would argue that I think there was more justice being done on the Jerry Springer show than the domestic relations division in most cases. So how do we make the best of this? Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
America,
don't know.
well, American mom, American dad, you're just gonna have to give every ounce you have, every drop of blood you have to these people because you decided to have kids in a country that for the last 50 years has let the government creep into your parenting rights more and more every day. You know,
Hmm.
when you have a bank account and they change one little term to your account, what do you get in the mail?
Statement.
Yeah, you get your statement, but they change the terms of your privacy or whatever. You're going to get this whole notice, right? And it's too much to read. You're like, well, I don't know what this is, whatever, right? But
Hmm.
if you look and you go, you know what? You're selling my information. Yesterday you weren't, and now you are. You didn't ask me, but at least you're telling me you did it. You'd be like, you know what? I'm pulling my money out of that bank. I don't like it. Wipe my information. You will not sell my information, right?
Hmm.
Well, did you know that in lovely states like Illinois and all over the country, they're over there changing the laws in relation to your marriage contract, in relation to your parenting rights all the time. But have you ever gotten a notice that they've changed any of this stuff?
Yeah.
So how do we make the best of it now? Because we have to pay these people. That's just what we do. If you're a good parent, you really care about your kids, you're just going to take every dime you have and every dime you can borrow, steal, beg for, and you're
Hmm.
going to give it to these people to run this little game, to run this little charade, to get into this improv theater court because
Hmm.
they all wish that they were some kind of actor or celebrity. And now you're feeding their egos and feeding their bank accounts. And you just have to do this because this is part of being an American. So what's the upside here?
I, just I guess trying to make the best of it, but it's hard because what I hear from a lot of parents is, like with pickups and drop-offs, no one's meeting the other co-parent halfway. Somebody has to do all the driving. Like I had to drive 127 miles up, 127 miles back, spend the weekend, and then take to the 127 miles up. Luckily, I could stay over at my friend's house and then I would leave her house in the morning and drive back down here in the morning. But they won't work with you. These are sociopaths that will refuse to work with you.
Well, so not every co-parent's a full-blown
Right.
sociopath, right? But all of us have these tendencies inside of us. But this system is really designed to encourage and nurture the narcissist, the sociopath, and the psychopath inside everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Maryann, if the court had just arbitrarily, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, picked you to be the primary parent, and you fell into the hands of the wrong attorney, you wouldn't be sitting here doing what you're doing right here today. You'd be talking about how great your judge was and how awesome the experience was and how bad you crushed that other parent. And it was so awesome. And you wouldn't be thinking about all the damage you did to the other parent who is still a parent to your children,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'd just be like, yeah, that was so cool. Give me some more. So, how do we make the best of this? Well, I would recommend everybody go check out billingassetrecovery.com. It's a really bare bones site. But did you know that you may have been shim sham just a little bit? Maybe a big, 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 big,
Yeah.
big on those bills that were charged by
Cha-ching.
these people who practice family law. One thing they're really not good at is billing. I'm going to keep the conversation real short right now. There are a few people that practice family law that are actually good people. They're actually trying to do a good job at what they do. And they're not good billers. They're not fair to themselves. A lot of them don't issue a bill. Did you hear that? I'm going to say that again. I know family law professionals that don't issue bills to their clients. They're not fair to themselves. They're working and bleeding in this system that is, everybody calls it broken. It just is what it is. It's a playground for people with ego issues. It's a playground for scammers who like to overcharge people. And these people are bleeding and getting terrorized by their own associates, by their own fellow colleagues in the system for not playing along.
Hmm.
They're sometimes getting bar beefed. Why? Because they're not going with the flow. And the flow is the money goes from the peasants to all of the elites with the word Esquire at the end of their name. And if one of these people is getting in the way of that flow of money, bam, bar beef. But did you know that you may have been grossly overcharged? Did you know that the person who held your hand and made you feel better and less scared while you're going through this horribly scary experience of never seeing your kids again, possibly? Did you know that this person may have been charging you for what amounted to support pet services, what amounted to therapy, what amounted to life coach advice, all of which they are not licensed to charge you for? And when you ask them why they charge you to listen to your stupid story about that red sweater you hated wearing every year for your family holiday picture,
Mm-hmm.
and they just want to they just want to like stab, like they can't take it anymore. They want to hurt themselves while you tell this story for the 10th time. They're like, you know what? I deserve to charge them for this. They are so annoying. If I have to hear about that red sweater one more time, I deserve this money. They might, but they're not licensed to charge you for that.
It's unconstitutional as well,
Right. So they're licensed to do what? To give legal advice.
if you'd call
So
it.
what? Yeah. So what about the red sweater? Is is anything pertinent to anything legal when it comes to parenting time or this or that, right? What about, who wanted the dog and who ended up walking the dog has anything to do with any of that? Oh no, this may have some legal bearing. It sure might when it comes time to come up with that bill and justify the 3 hours you were on the phone with a client. When you look at family law, let's have a really short conversation again. When has a judge sitting in family court actually exercised the law? I'm waiting.
Rarely. I only had two good judges. No, three. I had three. But the other ones, they were just horrible.
Did any of them recuse themselves because their
No,
role is basically unconstitutional?
no.
Did any of them actually come out and say to everybody, hey, guys, you know what? I shouldn't have any power over your families. You all shouldn't be here right now. You should work it out. You shouldn't be paying those people wearing suits and pantsuits standing next to you,
Uh-huh.
pretending like they care about you and your children. You shouldn't be giving all your money to them. You guys should work it out. Did you ever have a family court judge do that in any of these podcasts you've done?
The family court judge, Robert Sambrook, made the grave error of telling us to work it out.
Hmm.
And it didn't happen because the ex and his wife, who enjoys her job at the Erie County Courthouse, wouldn't let that happen.
Right.
So we punted, and he wasn't letting me see the kids. So we had to file an emergency petition. And then we went before this really good looking judge who started screaming at my ex. He was so cute. I had to put my head down, just don't look at him. But he did the right thing and he put it in the order. In fact, he gave me more time. And I carried that order in my purse for maybe a month and a half. And then we went back into court in front of Sambroke. And if you text Sambroke, the name, it'll come out Sam and then broke because you're broke when you leave that courtroom. Anyway, he said he wanted to see that order. Neither attorney, mine nor his, had that, didn't have it. I said, "Oh, Your Honor, I have that court order." So it's in my purse. Can I go get it? And so I ran and got it, and he just looked at it and gave it back to the bailiff who gave it to me, and he just ignored that seasoned judge's court order. And that judge had been on the bench longer than Sambrook.
So here's the next question for you. You got the judge who, you perceive as being nice to you, no matter how fair you felt he was being. Again, even compared to the other parent, how does this complete stranger who doesn't know your kids at all have any kind of power above you or even that other parent who may be whatever they were, right?
Right.
How did that happen? Did you all get to do a psychological test on this judge?
That judge should have had a psychological eval as well as urine drug screens, random drug screens, a lie detector test because he did pass of pancreatitis. And I desperately want to know what medication he was on when he passed because he ran my case like a three-ring circus.
So there you go. So you didn't get to point your finger at him and say, "Hey, I think you need a drug test." Can you blow into this breathalyzer right now, Judge, while you're on here? Michael Caruso in Colorado was sitting in front of a judge, and the judge didn't know basically what the word permanent meant. His lawyer had to explain it to him two or three times before he's like, "Oh," and he was slurring his speech.
Oh, no.
Think about that for a second. How offended would a judge be if you asked them to take a breathalyzer test before they got on the bench?
Oh, my God.
You think any of them take a little snort or a little gulp of something before they get on that bench? No, never. They wouldn't do that.
I'm sure something's going on.
Well, I mean, how could you do that job day in and day out without some sort of chemical something going on, right?
Right.
It is soul crushing to sit there and watch. And they get to the point where they hear horrific stories and they're just like, they're dead inside. They maybe started off being human. They maybe started off caring and they're just completely dead. They've heard these stories over and over. They're like, yeah, 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 yeah. And he's looking over at the attorneys who used to be his buddies, who maybe give to his campaign
Oh,
or
sure.
her campaign, maybe some other things. And they're looking over going, and
Oh.
they're looking at their watches, watching the sands of time drip. And each little grain of sand is like $10, $100, $1,000, depending on what level you're playing this game at.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, soul crushing for them. Eventually, they have no soul. How could they after sitting there and listening to this stuff over and over and over again? Now, they're the sick ones who go there and they make it their playground.
Mm-hmm.
It's their little damaged ego playground where they get to abuse other people like maybe they were abused before, right? So
Right.
are these attorneys victims of abuse? Do they have psychological issues? Do they have chemical dependency issues? Most of the time, the answer is yes and yes. So what if a parent is this, and that? Well, what if a family law professional, an officer of the court, what if a GAL, a guardian ad litem, or a PRE in Colorado? What if a family court judge? What if they are abusive? What if they are predators? What if they are people who have done disgusting things to children? What if? I think we should make some laws to curtail the possibility of them ever having control over other people's children. So now we go back to the bills. I'm going to share. So this, the damage that they do is, I mean, trillions of dollars couldn't fix it, right? I mean,
Right.
Maryann, unless somebody had the money to invent the time machine and go back and get you the time, all that time you missed with your kids, unless they had a time machine, which would cost trillions, there is no fixing the damage that is done
No.
in this charade theater that Americans just know as family court.
And Theo, I looked up how much these judges' robes cost, these Halloween costumes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you're looking at between 400 to 1,000 or even a little bit over $1,000 that the taxpayer is dumping money into a Halloween costume.
We could go to Spirit. And what are they like, $20?
Yep. Yeah.
We
But
just saved the taxpayers, who knows? Maybe millions.
but I like the pleats on the shoulders. I think those look sexy in a way, but that's about it.
Hey, if they like them, they can pay for them themselves.
I
I mean,
think so.
I think here's a real easy legislation. Every state passes a law that any, robes that are paid for by the taxpayers, they come from Spirit Halloween. And if the judge wants something nicer, they can pay for it out of their own pocket,
That's right. Right.
which I'm sure their buddies would be happy to pay for
Mm.
along with their campaign contributions, right? But at least the taxpayers aren't paying. What, 400?
Between four and over 1,000. You whatever they want to spend. I'm sure they
All
turn
right,
the receipts in.
so how do we make the best of this thing? Well, let me
Oh,
tell you a neat little story about this, okay? The latest thing that happened. There was a lady who got a $6,000 outstanding balance bill from a well-known firm in Cook County. And her lawyer had already been paid $20,000 and they were coming after her for another $6,000. She's stressed out. She's got a mountain of problems.
ugh.
That 20,000 that's gone and the 6,000 they're coming after are like teeny tiny problems, almost like a pebble in your shoe. Did you ever try to walk with a pebble in your shoe?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So she's freaking out about everything and she's keeping her calm as best she can. And I want to share something with everybody. Whether you pray or meditate,
Mhm, mhm,
before you go to take on a problem, take a deep breath and breathe in all the good memories, all the stuff that no one can steal from you. Some of you may believe that God gave you those moments in your life. Others of you may believe other stuff. But breathe in all the good things. And then when you breathe out all of the anxiety over things that you can't do anything about today.
mhm.
Breathe out all of the sadness, all of the anger. Breathe away all of the bad memories. Push them away from you and everybody you love. And take another good deep breath in and ask for strength to do something about what you can do something about. And that's what I asked this lady to do. She happens to believe in God. She tried it. I said, okay, let's look at those bills together. So we found out that those bills were 80% fluff, according to a report that was run. She paid someone a small fee, a very small fee, and the bills were 80% fluff. So then she says, what do we do next? And the decision's always up to you. See, this is not legal advice. It's not good legal advice because there is no such thing as good legal advice, right?
Mhm.
I know the judge. He and I are buddies. Yeah, right. You know what?
Yeah,
Can you put
right.
that in writing? Can you
Please.
put that in writing? Can I have the judge say that? Can you say, hey, judge, me and you are best friends and you do everything I say, right? And the judge says, that's right. Now you pay that lawyer everything they want, right?
That's
Sure.
yeah, Theo, I had a lawyer when I took him on, he was my third lawyer. He says, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm friends with Judge Kelly." I'm going, "Thank God, maybe there's hope." So, I thought this was great. Oh no, no, no. Whenever I had to go before her, he sent in his underling, who also torpedoed the case.
Scammers.
Yeah, she didn't file my physician verification forms on time. Thanks. You're a big help.
By the way, that's one of the biggest sources of a malpractice. Um, Not managing the calendar properly. That is one of the most common occurrences of malpractice. So going back to this lady, she now all of a sudden has the power. Like the song goes, I got the power. Well,
Yeah.
big deal. I mean, a bill that was issued years ago, now you know that they were 80% potentially fluff, right?
Hmm.
80% of this bill needed to be questioned. They needed to answer questions about certain things about the bill, like, why did you charge us at the full attorney rate when that's more of an administrative task? And lots of other secrets I won't share on this podcast.
Hmm.
And she said, what do I do now? I'm like, well, we talked to her and we said, well, what do you think you should do? She's like, well, I think I should ask him to explain this. It's like, well, what are the risks of doing that? I don't know. We could make him really mad. Okay, and then what? Well, I don't know. He might come at me harder in small claims court. Maybe I'm going to take the risk. Hey, Joe, could you explain how I ran a report, paid a little bit of money to have a report ran and analysis done on your bills, and it turns out that 80% of these charges are questionable. Can you explain that? And Joe responds back and says, well, I don't agree. But you know what? Just pay me $1,200. So he did agree.
Hmm.
And instead of $6,000, she's only on the hook for 1,200 now. Poof,
Wow.
just like that.
Wow.
She saved $4,800. Now, if you would ask her how much it costs to get that little report ran and to have that little bit of education, she would say it was at least worth $4,800. She didn't pay $4,800. She paid a fraction compared to that. Was that a benefit? Yes. That was like taking that little pebble
Mm.
out of your shoe, shaking your shoe out to make sure there aren't any more, then putting your shoe back on. She's still got a mountain of problems. She's
Yeah.
got to carry a huge burden on her shoulders. But guess what? She's not $4,800 lighter. And she worked out a payment plan and she deferred it to next year,
That's amazing. 'Cause
right?
I had to pay. And right 2 weeks before Christmas, I think I told you this story maybe, but I get a letter from my lawyer saying, "We really like working with you and you've been a joy to work with." Yeah, sure.
Template, template. You probably were a joy to work with too, but this is just a template.
Right. But we need $8,000, or we're going to have to, you know, let you go. So I'm like getting a charge card from what bank? I can't remember. But anyway, I told the lawyer, I'm getting this charge card. Can you wait? Can you wait a week? Please, please wait a week. You know how you get stressed out because like I can't lose these people, even though you should. You should just lose them. And I thought that Friday I got the charge card. I ran in there and swiped it, and my husband had a fit, and it was just a big mess. And then the following year within a couple months, I think it was, they dropped me.
So they dropped you anyway, even after you give them the Instagram,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Was this one of the people that you emailed?
Yes.
Aha. And they haven't responded yet, have they?
No.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do?
Pray God deals with them.
Well, and you know what? I mean, you might want to consider this is not advice, just you might want to consider knocking on their door again and asking them why they haven't responded to your questions.
Well, that's true.
Something to think about,
Yeah,
right?
because I paid that 2 weeks before Christmas. And then I think it was in the spring of 2016 is when they dropped me.
Okay. So, the fact that you asked and they didn't responded, that may have some bearing. There's another guy, you know, Nate Monroe, of course, right?
Yeah, he's fabulous.
He's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Nate Monroe let me know about something called equitable tolling, and I'm researching it.
Uh-huh.
And from what I understand, from the way he explained it to me, and this could be totally wrong, again, I'm not giving legal advice. Equitable tolling is where you can push back the statute of limitations on something due to some sort of disability. And you may not fully realize it yet, but you were going through immense stress, trauma,
Heart
almost
attack.
like a temporary disability
Mm-hmm.
while you were being, I mean, some people would classify it as being extorted for money in order for the in exchange for the promise to see
Uh-huh.
your children. Some people would call it that, others would call it going through the legal process. You pick, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you have something different. So now that you're waking up and you're kind of shedding your trauma, it may not be too late to go back and ask some questions.
Because they forced
And
me to represent myself.
yeah, I mean, it's just something to think about, right?
Right.
Again, there's no clear cut legal advice,
Right. There
especially in a
isn't.
court of equity when you have a judge who has judicial discretion, you have judicial immunity, and there's no any kind of background checks on this judge for their competence. So, really, there's supposed to be laws and statutes in place. They don't have to follow them.
No.
So I will talk about one thing. So we're making the best of things now, right? So
Yeah.
this woman has already, and her name is Nicole. She's very careful about how she talks about herself on the phone. And she now knows that 80% of that other 20 grand she paid this law firm to do nothing for her is questionable. And I asked her straight up, what do you feel they did well for you? And she said, well, the attorney that she had was not the scummiest, worst attorney in the world. He basically told her, like, hey, the best we could do is kind of hold them off while they're acting crazy, kind of stop them and slow them down. I don't know how this judge is going to act. This whole thing, I mean, he basically told her, like, you going in there and expecting that this court is going to protect you and your kid. I don't really, I mean, he was giving her the real scoop, allegedly,
Mhm.
and charging her lots of money for drafting motions and other things that he never filed. Whoops. I don't know. Should he get to charge that? Did it really take all that time to draft those motions? I mean, don't they have templates?
Yeah, yeah,
Aren't they really good at this by now?
I
Why does
would
it take
hope.
2 hours to draft a motion? Right.
They have a
And they go, no,
paralegal doing
no.
that. Yeah.
Well, right. And then the best part is they go, no, no, I didn't use a template. It's like, well, why aren't you? Either way, you either took too long because you didn't use a template, or if you had a template, it wouldn't have taken that long. This is where some of the questions come in. So now she's going to go back after she secures her last $1,200 because she doesn't want to get dragged into court again. It's traumatizing. It's horrible for her. I had another parent who's been divorced for 10 years now. And their youngest child is almost 15. And his ex started acting up because she couldn't afford to pay her portion of the college expenses. And he just went down this spiral. He went down this, like, just picture your whole life going down the toilet while it's flushing, right?
Yes,
He
that's me.
emotionally,
Yeah.
right? His soul and his brain and his everything were being flushed down the toilet in his mind. He called me up just freaking out. She's going to drag me back into court over college expenses. And I'm like, breathe,
Oh yeah.
kick all the bad out. And he's like, oh,
Oh
right?
man.
Take another good breath. Okay, relax. What's really happening right now?
Right.
I'm not charging for this. Just being a friend. I could be giving him the wrong advice completely. But then I said, look it up. Think about it. I don't want to pay another lawyer all that money. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh. I said,
God.
do some research. Look it up. When he looked it up, he called me up. He's like, hey, you should have came over and slapped me and told me to stop being such a beep. Right. And I'm like, I'd never do that to you. He's like, no, seriously, I was wasting your time. I was freaking out over nothing. And my ex calmed down. We talked and we worked it out. Hey, that happens sometimes, Maryann.
Yeah.
Not always,
Not
but
always. No.
because again, the system encourages this antagonism. The system isn't broke. It works just great.
Oh yeah. I get so irritated when people say, "Oh, the system's so broken." No, it's not.
Right. So I mean, the Roman gladiator arena was it a broken system? No, it wasn't. It's
Mm-mm.
like, hey, you know what? You're gonna fight this other person until the other person gives up. And then, most gladiators weren't killed in gladiator fights, by the way, too, because their trainers spent a lot of money on them.
Yeah.
And most fights were like over and you kind of knew the other person was down. Sometimes they were so crippled, it was like everybody was like,
Yeah.
just finish him. He can't live the rest of his life like that. He can't fight anymore. He can't be a good slave to anyone. Just finish him. He's so pathetic. Just end him. I mean, that's a lot of times why the thumbs down thing happened. But what if the two gladiators didn't want to fight? You know what they're Yeah,
Right.
oh, worse.
Oh
Because
no.
there's stuff that's worse than death, Marianne.
Torturing, torturing.
Crucifixion.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
People would beg to die when they were put up on those crosses. Like, please kill me.
Oh
Now, what
man.
does that feel and sound like, Marianne?
Oh, family court.
Yeah. I asked combat veterans, asked people who have lost limbs. I've asked people who have been through horrific experiences, near death and all this stuff. I'm like, how did that stack up to going through family court? All of them said family court was way worse. And I said, why though? Really, what was being done to you? Nobody was beating you up. Nobody was physically torturing you. Like, nobody was shooting at you like in Afghanistan. Nobody was chopping off one of your extremities, right? You weren't losing a limb or something. Why was this worse? What do you think they all said? What made it worse?
I want to say the intentional infliction of emotional distress, the
It was,
psychological abuse.
I mean, that's fine. You've been yelled at before, right?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I mean, I grew up, I kind of grew up with it. And then my ex,
Everybody has.
10 years of getting screamed at and whatever.
Right. Yeah,
I was,
everybody's been yelled at. Everybody's been belittled.
yeah,
Everyone's been
high
psychologically
school.
tortured. But
Right.
what makes family court 10, maybe 1,000 times worse? What
Because
is it? What's the factor?
they're doing it to your kids and their child psychologically abusing your kids, especially when my attorney ran out of the room where my kids were sequestered, where the kids were telling Judge Sambrook what they wanted, which was 50-50, which we had been for 10 years. But she runs out of the room and runs over to me and she said, "The judge is twisting your son's words, just so you know." And it's like, okay, so we're still in the same boat.
Right. So here's what makes it worse again. Like you just said it, because it involves the children. That's what makes it 10,000 times worse. Imagine how bad it would be to be crucified as a slave who doesn't want to kill another slave for the entertainment and education. Because the
Mm,
Romans actually had a real reason for watching these fights. They were actually kind of studying warfare and how to survive while watching these slaves fight to the death. It wasn't just sick entertainment, but there were those sick individuals too. I think a lot of people were very interested in their own survival, and they're like, what would I do if I were that guy with the trident and the net? What would I do if I was the guy with the little tiny shield and that little short sword versus the guy with the trident and the net? They were more watching it because they were like, how am I going to survive when somebody's facing me trying to kill me? Right?
hmm
That's why they were watching. And then you had the really sick jerks up there who never were going to fight. And they were just there for the entertainment and making the money off of it.
hmm
And when you're a slave who refuses to fight and they threaten to crucify you, you're like, I'd rather get stabbed to death in the arena than be crucified. Right? It's
Right.
like, that's less worse. Right? But then what if they threaten to crucify and torture their children?
hmm
Now, how hard are you going to fight? How entertaining is that going to be for the crowds? How profitable is that going to be for the slave owners, the slave trainers, the people who sell the tickets at the Coliseum? Does it all kind of make sense again?
That's
It's
the
not broken
no.
at all, right?
Mm-mm.
So, what we're really talking about is being bad slaves. Most people just want to be a good slave and just give every dime they have
Mm.
to their lawyer to protect their parental rights, which were theirs in the first place.
hmm hmm
And a parent who thinks they can erase the parental rights of the other parent, again, maybe instead of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars to erase the other parent, how about if there really is something wrong with them? How about you use that money to help the other parent get better? Oh, no, not them. I don't want to see them healthy and happy. And then here's a system that comes along and goes, yeah, that's it. That's the spirit. We want more of that.
Yeah.
So how do we make the best of this again? Well, Americans aren't going to wake up. I've given up on that a long time ago.
Right. They're not waking up because I think we were talking earlier, and I had posted podcast clips last night, and one of them was on child support. And someone just wrote in, "Why don't you just pay your damn child support?" And I wrote back, there are extraneous things that happen to someone when they can't, like false allegations, causing someone to lose their job. And then I said, watch the podcast. You got to watch the whole thing.
Why don't you just pay your child support? And who gets that money?
The state gets some
The
of it.
state. And what does the state do when they get that money?
They dump it back into the judge's pensions.
Eventually, yes, through a very, it's not that direct, right? It's not like it
Right.
just goes ching right in there, but it goes
Right.
into the GRF, the General Revenue Fund. They actually ask for federal matching dollars
Right.
for
Right.
for the money, and I'm still trying to figure out whether or not it's money ordered to be collected or money actually collected. I'm There's still a debate about this, but basically there's matching federal dollars that get dumped into the GRF in Illinois, for example, which is a big fund that also happens to feed the fund that feeds the judges' pensions. One reason Illinois is so broke is because of the massive pension obligation.
Oh,
So we need things like child support to be paid not directly not directly provided to the children through actual support and food and housing by a loving parent like Maryann Petri. Oh no, we can't have that. Not money that is paid directly to the other parent who is paying for rent and food for the children because the other parent cannot provide the rent, food, and time to the children. So it's like, hey, thanks for doing me a solid and watching our kids for me because I can't,
hmm.
no, or because I don't want to. Here's some money, cool, great. At least you don't have to like shoulder the whole burden. That
Right,
makes sense. No, no, it has to go through the state disbursement unit, which of course helps with enforcement, right?
right.
And what is the state disbursement unit do to enforce? Well, they'll do things like take away people's driver's licenses, their passports, their fishing licenses, their hunting
Yep,
licenses.
yep.
All of these things will definitely, especially taking the driver's license away, will definitely help the parent who's not paying the child support pay more child support, right?
Very helpful.
Sometimes throw the parent in jail for contempt of court orders.
Right.
Was that you, Marianne?
That was me.
Bad girls. What you
Well,
gonna do? Yeah.
well, I very well-behaved women rarely make history, so I guess I had made some history by showing the judge that I was not going to cave into her wants, desires, and needs at my
Well, see, there you go.
expense.
So this is interesting though, because I mean, was it really the judge you were fighting, or I mean, now here's the question: like, you're such a bad person, Marianne. Why don't you obey the law? Blah 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 blah. Well, let's talk about some things that used to be legal that aren't anymore. How about it used to be legal for the British to tax us colonists and not give us lowly rabble peasant colonists even a say in any kind of representation of the government that's taxing us. That used to be legal. Guess what those unruly, savage colonists did? They
Revolt.
didn't obey the law.
Right.
And then you know what else was legal, Marianne? Oh, owning a slave. And some people were like, you know what? Hey, it's the law. You can own a slave. And you know what some people said? Nah, I don't care. It's right here. It's written down. It's legal.
Mm.
Nah, I don't care what it says on the piece of paper. That shouldn't be legal. They fought a war over it, right? I
Mm.
mean, do you believe that it's your right to abuse your children, Marianne? Right, you're shaking your head. No. Do you believe it's your right to not care for your children and not do your very best to provide for them? No,
No.
right? And those are your personal feelings. Do you believe it's your right to deprive your children of contact with someone else who loves them? Right?
Right.
Do you believe it's your right to make people pay for something that doesn't help their children at all?
Yeah. Like these third-party parasite guardian ad litems, custodial evaluators, psychologists that aren't adept into child psychological ABUSE.
Well, and a lot of them either have been abused, come from abusive households. A lot of them are abusers, like a guy named Benjamin W. Meyer, who is in jail right now, who used to work for a law firm that did GAL work.
Mm.
This person worked for a law firm where people were court ordered to bring their children in and leave them alone in an office with professionals. This person was convicted. He admitted to committing these heinous acts on a minor
Ah,
under the age of 13. He wrote a book. It was supposed to be fiction. It was his story about how he was redeemed.
wow.
And he's serving time right now. And he used to look great in a suit. And he used to represent parents right. He'd represent the best interest of his clients in an office where people were court ordered to bring their young children in and have them alone in an office. This is how askew things have gotten in the last 5 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Just let the government into your life.
Yeah,
Can't figure it
don't.
out? You're scared? You're not smart enough to figure it out? Don't worry, the government will figure it out for you.
Very scary words.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, making the best of it. I mean, you and I are obviously like a lot of your podcasts are just very therapeutic. Some people are just talking out loud
Uh-huh.
and telling their story and going like, am I the only one this has ever happened to? Am I crazy? And then you're going like, nope. Like, yeah, but that's a rare case. That should never happen, but I guess it could happen every once in a while. And your podcast is just a running record
Yeah.
of this system. Just this choo-choo is off the tracks and can never get back on again. So when you
Mm-mm.
say things like dismantle family court, it's like, that's crazy. Where are people going to go when they have problems? Not there.
No.
Because where do they go when their lawyers finally tell them, when all the money's dried up? Where do they go when their lawyers tell them, I don't know, you guys are just going to have to figure it out? Where do they go? They just figure it out. And it sucks. And it's not great for these kids. And it's not great for the parents. And you know what? Not all intact families that are together still. It's not great that way either a lot of times. Sometimes it's worse, right?
Right.
But you just got to figure it out and live it out. And
Right.
yes, horrible tragedies happen. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying we shouldn't do everything we can to prevent these horrible tragedies from happening, but they do. And family court is not preventing any of these tragedies. I have yet to see a family court judge. Well, now we have AI, so maybe we can make this video. Fly in on their super cape and save a baby who's being tossed out of a burning building,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You just don't see that. What you do see is you see things like orders of protection, which is a piece of paper that really, if the person who's being served this order of protection is a real psychopath, it's just going to push them into doing something crazy. This piece of paper doesn't protect the person who's getting the order of protection. What we should do is use some of that federal funding that dumps in every time someone cries, I'm scared, to maybe sending these people who say they're scared to a self defense class,
Mm-hmm.
maybe buying them some protection, like a security guard or something, but a piece
Cameras.
of paper
Cameras around the
that'll
house.
hammers around the house. I mean, anything. They don't even do that,
No.
right? A security system for the person. How expensive are security systems, right?
Yeah.
And they don't do any of that. They give them a piece of paper. And what does that piece of paper do? Oh, it's got power, all right. It has the power to destroy a good person's life, to ruin a good person's life who actually does respect, who didn't have any intention of harming anyone. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, these people who are served these orders of protection, who are really good people inside, who are just wrongly accused, sometimes just because of a mix-up, not even anything malicious, they end up hurting themselves.
Mm.
What measures are taken to stop people from hurting themselves? So how can we make the best of it? I know we'll take away all the guns from people. Well, fun fact, you know what percentage of gun deaths? Do you know what the layer underneath almost 70% of gun deaths is?
Um, I
I
don't.
know you have rules on your podcast. Suicide.
Oh, yes. Unaliving.
So edit that out if you need to. But yes, So almost like it's like last I checked, it was above 60%. You're anybody who's watching this can correct me. That's fine. I'm just going off of memory. Are guns really that dangerous when most of the deaths involve someone else using it against themselves?
Right.
And then if you dig under why most of them have done this, what do you think is behind that? Probably some type of family court proceeding
Right. Right.
or some other abuse of some justice, right? Like an HR department not doing their job well and letting someone be bullied and harassed out of their job or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. I think we are trying to make the best things because what we're trying to do is right now, so we're trying to really identify what is and what isn't working well for whom. Is the family court system working well for families? You're going to say no, except for the fact that there are many families who rely on this family court system working the way it does right now, who rely on that system working the way it does to support their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
The private schools, the foreign luxury automobiles,
Mm-hmm.
the trips, the vacation homes in other countries, the vacation home in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, the the home here in Illinois,
The trips to Terra.
the expensive bags, which are really they only cost about $50 tops. And then they get a zipper sewn on in Italy, and now all of a sudden they're $20,000 bags.
Right. Right.
The trips to Terra. It's, the shoes, all the clothes and the trappings that fool people into believing they're successful and good at what they do. These people rely on the system continuing to work the way it does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing? Well, you're not going to wise up and not go in there. You're probably not even going to wake up while it's going on. Because I know a guy who was going on, and the guy, while he was going through the whole thing, was going, these people are scammers. This guy knew wise guys, like real connected guys who were mobsters. And he was watching these attorneys work together, and he's like, these guys are doing what those guys did right out in the open in court.
Mm.
He knew they were scammers, and he just kept paying them because he's like, they got my kids. I have to play this little extortion game and just pay them so I can see my kids.
Mm.
Because there are many people who caught on to what was going on and fired their lawyer, went into the court and said, this is not constitutional. Therefore, Marbury versus Madison is repugnant to the Constitution. Therefore, it's illegal. Cease and desist, blah, blah, blah. These people have never seen their kids again
Mm-hmm.
because of the retaliation that ensues. So then this guy's paying and paying and paying. While you're going through it, you're probably not emotionally stable enough to spot you're being scammed by these people, to spot that you're being overbilled. But even if you are, you're too afraid to stop paying them because you're afraid of walking in there without your shield, without your barking
Alleged
dog,
protection.
alleged protection, because they have a barking dog. I know an attorney who pleaded no contest or something to a rabies violation case in the 90s. And it really explains everything. The incessant barking, the foaming at the mouth. And if you're going up against one of his clients, you better have another dog who can bark back. Otherwise, you're just going to be barked out of the courtroom. So you got to pay for protection. This is a protection racket now. That's what this guy who knew wise guys told me. This looks exactly and acts exactly like an extortion protection racket. And he said, I want to see my kids. And he was allowed to see his kids a little bit.
Oh,
He was allowed to retain what God gave him, according to him. He was allowed to retain his parental rights, which were his all along. He was not a criminal. He was not on drugs. He never abused anybody. There was no cause for his parental rights to be put on the table in the first place. How did that get there? Who slid that onto the table?
the
What
attorney did.
happened? Yeah, the attorney who probably is still suffering from the after effects of rabies, who is part of the extortion scam. And the other attorney on the other side, if they try and call it out and go, you're extorting my client, what happens next? Boom, bar beef against that attorney. How dare you? And the guy called it out. It's an extortion racket, just like the mob runs, but it's right inside the courthouse, right
Hmm.
in the light of day. So we just said there's nothing you can do about it, right? Except for one thing. You might want to go back and investigate those bills. But I'm too tired. I'm not smart enough to do it. I'm not strong. Okay, I'm going to admit something, okay? I'm lazy. I'm so lazy. I can't do it.
I've been through too much.
I've been through too much. It's going to re traumatize me. Billingassetrecovery.com. It's just a bill. And you should never share any information that's private, protected information. No social security numbers, no birth dates, no children's names, none of that stuff that you gave your attorney. No
Hmm.
financial statements, no balances, no nothing. Just the bills, ma'am. Just the bills. And if there's any private information contained in those bills, you can redact them, black out the private information in there. Go to billingassetrecovery.com, see what you can do to look into what actually happened. When you look at, if you remember one of our podcasts we did,
Hmm.
their bills are breadcrumbs to their crimes. Because this looks, smells, and sounds exactly like an organized extortion racket, the
Hmm.
family court. And their bills often are the proof.
Sadly
They,
so.
they do not hold water. Most of the time, 80%. Really? One client said, no, 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 that's too crazy. We just got to ask for 20 or 30%. They couldn't wrap their head around the level of fraud that's been perpetrated on them. No, 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 no. Nobody's going to accept that. The person who's watching that, who told me that, you're watching this right now, you were wrong. And aren't you glad you were wrong? Person who said 80% is crazy. A lot of these lawyers don't want to answer questions about their bills. They get that sick feeling in their stomach that a lot of parents got when they were told they may never see their kids again. When someone calls them up and asks them to do part of their job, which, don't believe me, read the American Bar Association rules. Read ABA 1.5, which has like a matching copy paste IRPC, Illinois Rules of Professional Conduct.
Mm.
Read those rules. They are obligated to explain their bills, and they're not allowed to charge you for explaining their bills.
Interesting.
This is not legal advice. Don't believe me. Nothing I say is right. You should not do anything I say. I'm an idiot. I know nothing. I am wrong all the time. Do not believe me. I am not giving legal advice. I'm not licensed to give legal advice.
Oh, yeah,
Therefore,
neither am
you
I.
should anything I say. But I'll tell you what, might you want to look up the ABA 1.5? Might you want to study it for yourself? Do you think that you need a law degree to understand the ABA Model Rule 1.5? You tell me what it says. Prove me wrong in the comments of this podcast. These lawyers do not want to show up to a billing rectification conference. They don't want to explain their billing.
Right, right.
I know law offices that have cut an old client a check rather than explain a line on their bill. I know law offices that have written off tens of thousands of dollars. The high score right now is a $5,000 refund check from one of the father's rights law firms.
Oh my God.
Look it up. Psst, psst. I may be wrong, but is there such a thing as father's rights? Look it up.
What about
$5,000 refund check.
what about mother's rights? People ask me what about mother's rights, but that could be another podcast.
Right. Is there actual such a thing written in the code? So then the next thing is, I know someone who got a 2,300 something check, refund check from another father's rights law firm that charged for a private investigator that didn't exist, that never produced a report, and they got a refund check.
Wow.
Okay. And you know what? You can call BS on all these stories. Maybe I just made this all up.
I don't think you
Or you
did. I know you too well.
you can contact me. You can find out more. I know people who, again, sat there and watched their lawyer who was afraid they weren't going to have enough money to pay them to run their 10-day trial, beat up two other law firms and make 26 or 27,000, somewhere around there, dollars just go away on outstanding balances
Wow.
because he applied the same thing. What's that? What's that? Why'd you bill that much here? Who's that? Why did you do that? Da da da. And what he did was expose a mountain of fraud that should have been prosecuted, that should have been reported to the FTC. Instead, they're like, we'll just take it off the bill. Here's the remaining balance. By the way, those bills that were chopped down, those refunds that were given, the other party in the case who was still married to that person, they were getting ripped off because the marital pot just got smaller when one of the lawyers ripped off one of the parties. If you're still married while you're going through a divorce and your soon to be ex's attorney fraudulently, either recklessly, wantonly, or willfully, fraudulently practice theft via deception and stole $10 from your soon to be ex, who did half of that $10 belong to? Did you know that you may have the right to look into? And I'm just asking this question.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe you have the right to look into whether or not your ex was overcharged by their lawyer?
Oh, yeah, I know
Therefore,
he was.
that reduced the size of the marital pot. And that means they were stealing from you too, if you were still married.
No, we weren't.
Okay.
He
So
brought he
that's
brought that on himself at
right.
that time.
So yeah, and so this is like for all of our listeners, right? If you went through a 2 year long knockdown drag out and you know that the other side's attorneys charged the heck out of your soon to be ex at the time and now your ex, they were actually stealing from the marital estate, which was half yours at the time, or whatever the judge decided needed to be chopped up, right?
Fascinating.
Maybe it was 40% yours or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
So again, I said, did you know? These are all questions. I could be wrong. I love being proved wrong.
Me
Well,
too. Me too.
I don't I don't take it well at first. I really like the challenge, but I like to be proved wrong. I mean, I learned the most from when people have given me a psychological, verbal, sometimes a physical spanking. Those are some of the best moments of my life. This is when you learn,
Right.
right? So, Maryann, we talked for a long time, but remember our theme was making the best of things. You know, if you get a $4,800 reduction on an outstanding $6,000 balance, is that is it going to rain puppies and candy canes for you? Are you going to be riding a golden Pegasus with wings on a rainbow for the rest of your life? No. But would your life be better if you just paid the extra $4,800 that you should not have paid to someone who was preying on you and your family, whether they knew it or not, to
Hmm.
someone who was actually possibly making your family situation worse, to someone who really the only legal advice they could have really given you was, hey, did you know that when you're walking in there, you're surrendering all of your rights, your human rights, your constitutional rights? Did you know that when you're walking in there, this judge has judicial discretion and judicial immunity? And whatever mood they're in, if they
Hmm.
don't like the way you stand, if you look like somebody that used to bully them in high school, if you're wearing the
Or
wrong
date.
colored dress,
Right.
you could lose everything. Did you
Yes.
know that walking into this is what you're signing up for? Which divorce family law lawyers tell you that?
None of them.
I'm still waiting. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for one of them to tell you that because that is really in my opinion, in my personal opinion, my non-licensed to practice law personal opinion, that may be the only real piece of legal advice that family law professionals can actually charge for. And that would amount to a 5-minute conversation. And sure, let them round it up to 15 minutes because their fee agreement says we charge a minimum of 15-minute increments.
Mhm, mhm. Fascinating. This is why I'm glad
Have
I
them.
had you on.
Yes. So, everybody, I'm leaving you with this again. I'm going to say this 3 times. If you can't find those bills, go to billingassetrecovery.com. If you don't remember what happened and how much money you paid to these lawyers, go to billingassetrecovery.com. If you're sitting there going, what happened to all my money
Yeah.
after that attorney engineered custody battle? Go to billingassetrecovery.com.
And how can people reach you if they have a question?
They can email me at theo@alliedra.com. That's
Excellent.
the best way. It might take a little bit to get back to me, or they can find me on LinkedIn, follow me, and message me there.
Excellent. Excellent. Because we're going to do a couple more podcasts coming up this fall, like maybe a scary, spooky Halloween one and that great Thanksgiving one we did last year.
That's going to be spooky. And we are going to be grateful on Thanksgiving for lots of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'll get some other peeps on. And I know people say, well, this is nothing to joke about. But when you develop this weird, dark sense of humor after talking to so many people going through it, and in time, I hate to say this, but in time, years will pass and you'll start making jokes about it.
Yes. And you know what? If you can't laugh, find a way to make yourself laugh because you know what? It helps you breathe, it helps your brain reset. And if you can't stop laughing, then you may have a problem.
Right.
But laugh a little bit,
Right.
take a break, and then think about what happened. Now your brain can start to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Find something that makes you laugh. And if you can find a way to laugh about everything that's happened, if you've been through something like Maryann's talking about, wow. Talk about being empowered. Talk about being on the path to recovery and being stronger than you ever were. Because I will quote one of my friends, Andrea. You know that song? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Andrea says, what doesn't kill you doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
But every day you're alive, guess what? You have a choice to either get stronger, weaker, or stay the same.
Definitely, definitely. I'm looking forward to our next podcasts.
It's going to be spooky.
It will be, but don't jump off, Theo. Slam the Gavels of podcasts help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google, and other platforms I don't even know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Theo Chino, for coming on. You're like a brother to me. Thank you.
Ciao, bellissima.
Ciao.